Please be seated, everybody. Good evening all, welcome to this meeting of Middlesbrough Council. Just a few things I need to read out first. Please, if any councillor is going to speak, will you use the microphones, and be advised that the meeting is being live screened. And all meeting attendants, we're not expecting a fire alarm to go off, but if one does, make your way down to the bottle of notes opposite Mima via the nearest fire escape. I've got to remind members of the public that this is a business meeting of the Council, and whilst members of the public are welcome to attend and listen to the debate, they are not allowed to call out or disrupt the meeting. If any member of the public interrupts the meeting, they will be issued with a warning, and if they proceed to interrupt the meeting, they will be asked to leave. Right, item agenda 1, apologies for absence.
Councillor Higgins, Councillor Jones, Councillor Platt, Councillor Sands and Councillor McIntyre.
Anybody else? Right, thank you very much. Agenda item 2, just an announcement. I'd like to welcome Councillor Luke Mason to his first meeting of the Council. Councillor Mason was elected as Conservative Council for Colby Newham in the by-election held on the 20th of February 2020. Would you like to stand up, Councillor, so we can all see what you look like? Would you like to say a few words?
I'd just like to thank people of Colby Newham for choosing to elect me. I will endeavour to do as good a job as I can for them. And I'd also like to thank so many of the councillors for being so accommodating to me. I understand I'm probably not the candidate many of them wanted to win the by-election, but I will endeavour to work with them as best as I possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just on a personal note, I'd like to welcome Councillor Uddin back to the Council. I know Councillor Uddin has been quite poorly, but it's nice to see you back. Welcome. Agenda item 3. This is the Revenue Budget Council Tax Medium-Term Financial Plan. I'm going to get... Oh, sorry, I've missed declarations of interest out. Anybody have any declarations of interest? Councillor at the end. Right, Mary. Councillor?
I declare a non-pecuniary interest with regards to agenda item 3.
Yeah, can I declare, same again, can I declare a non-pecuniary interest with regards to the agenda item 3?
Thank you. Anybody else? Nobody. Right, we'll try again. Agenda item 3, Revenue Budget Council Tax Medium-Term Financial Plan and Prudential Indicators. We're going to get the Mayor to introduce the item, but I'll just say that after the report has been presented and commented on, a recorded vote will then take place. So over to you, Mr. Preston.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, everyone. I'm going to be nice and fast tonight. First of all, welcome to a new member, Mr. Mason, Councillor Mason. Well done. Congratulations, and welcome back to Councillor Udin. Not very well, apparently, but you're looking pretty fine. So I don't know if you've really been away on holiday or away. Okay. So, listen, we could talk about this stuff all night, but we shouldn't. And do you know why we shouldn't? Because although it's really very, very important, it has been discussed, debated, agonised over in public and in private since before Christmas. I said at the time we wanted it to be known as the people's budget, and some people laughed at that. But my goal was that everybody gets an input, and certainly, I mean, I've met with Labour members and agreed things and worked together. I've talked with some of the Conservatives and many independents, and together, including literally thousands of pieces of input from the public, together, all of us as a town have set a budget that I think we should say with confidence will be approved and will be worked on for the next 12 months. I'm really proud that we've got such a high level of consultation and involvement. And it probably won't stop anyone, but we really don't need people reading out long statements and making political points tonight. You're welcome to, because that's your right, but you don't need to. We've all discussed and debated this to the nth degree. Thanks to everyone who's played a part in making this budget and shaping it and getting it to where it is, but in particular, the thousands of members of the public that have really played a part. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Right, I'm going to invite members to speak on the budget now. But I want to request members before they speak to indicate if they are commenting or asking a question or suggesting an amendment. And I'd like to find that any amendments that come through can be made through the group leaders. Okay? So we'll make a start. Anybody wish to speak on the budget? Councillor Story.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to say that the Labour Group will be voting in favour of the budget tonight. We're pleased that the Mayor entered into negotiations with us and agreed to our requests. And due to Labour's negotiations, some key services will be retained. We won't be seeing fortnightly bin collection this year, and not before significant consultation and public information is provided. There will not be a reduction in street sweeping or grass cutting services. And the budget will protect the rights and working conditions of some of the lowest paid workers at the council, with no privatisation of cleaning services and no reduction in lollipop patrols. Labour set out to work towards a budget that protected critical services for the people of Middlesbrough, and we've successfully achieved that. We've also done what no previous opposition has ever done in Middlesbrough, which was to propose fully costed and workable alternatives, present them and secure agreement on those alternatives. The easiest thing in the world for us to do would be to oppose this budget. No suggestions of our own, no plan, just opposition for opposition's sake. But the people of Middlesbrough need their council to have a budget to fund the services we all rely on, and we've worked across the political divide to achieve exactly that. There is a worrying trend, and the dire and unacceptable state of funding settlements for local councils shows this, that this is becoming normalised, that councils will always have to introduce cuts to services and council tax increases, that it is an unfortunate inevitability. We cannot ever allow that kind of thinking to become commonplace, because overall funding to local councils has been cut by more than 3/4 since 2010. This is fundamentally wrong. We shouldn't only take on battles or stand up for causes we think we can win. Sometimes it is our responsibility as elected representatives to fight battles which we feel are beyond us, or because they are hard. Labour will continue to fight the cuts regardless of how hard that fight is. In closing, Labour in Middlesbrough is essential to the budget process. If you want the job doing, you need Labour. If you want a budget, you need Labour. What Labour have done in this budget process is show mature political leadership. Whilst I accept and understand not everyone will support the budget, Labour are serious about delivering the best for local people in the most extremely challenging and of circumstances. And I believe that this is what we've done.
Councillor Morstan. Sorry, I should have said before we start, we're back to normal council procedure rules now. It's 2 minutes.
Do I have a microphone? Yes.
Get started.
Yes, the cuts to this council has been, because of austerity, have been so deep. We've been told austerity is finished, but the effect and the damage done to this council will continue for a number of years. Consequently, budgets similar to this would have to be done. We don't like it all, but it's got to be done by this council to protect the people of Middlesbrough. Maybe diverting some of the money from HS2 might have helped with budgets, instead of putting it on a system that might be obsolete in a few years' time. We support the budget as proposed. Good to see the school crossings are protected, because the children's safety is paramount. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McTeague.
Apart from 2 or 3 councillors and of course the mayor, most of us either live in or represent wards that are at the top of the most deprived wards in the country, such as the town. Many of the residents are on a fixed income, so when they're presented with an extra bill or rise in their outgoings, then to use that well-known phrase, something's got to give. And usually that's either less eating or less food. I can't vote for an increase in cap. The rest of the budget is fine, but I can't vote for a 4% increase in and then ask people to vote for me, knowing that I've saddled them with more money. I know that we need the extra money, but I don't think we should put it to the general public. First of all, we have millions already uncollected. That bill is going to increase. We're going to have a situation where more people are having to pay more than people who either won't or can't vote.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor?
It's Council Wright, just in case you'd forgotten. I'd like to congratulate the residents of Eastside on their campaign to save the lollipop crossings. Since the Mayor first announced his plan to axe the Broadwell Road lollipop crossing, my community have signed petitions, we put up posters, and we've worked tirelessly to protect our children. I'd like to pay a particular tribute to Mrs. Lineker at Eastside Primary Academy, who supported the campaign to protect the lollipop crossing. She organised a competition to save our lollipop person. I'm particularly impressed with the work of Eastside Primary junior road safety officers like Polly, who lives in Eastside. They've been working to raise awareness of road safety, as well as campaigning on the lollipop crossing. Now, the budget the Mayor's negotiated with Labour has secured services which communities like mine depend on. The area care teams in Eastside and Martin Manor help to keep the place tidy. The lollipop crossings keep our children safe, and weekly bin collections are a priority for people in Eastside and Martin Manor. Middlesbrough Council's cleaners will be very relieved to hear that this budget safeguards their jobs from privatisation. And I was delighted to join with my trade union, Unison, who campaigned to protect these jobs. Tonight I'll vote on a budget which safeguards our cleaners' jobs, pay and terms and conditions. Now, I know this wasn't easy, Mayor Preston. I recognise the pressure that we face as a council in balancing the books. The fair funding review by central government is a real concern. The Local Government Association has projected that Middlesbrough Council could bear the harshest cut in the Tees Valley, an overall reduction from central government of 15.75%. This year we're able to find a way to set a budget together, with the government promising further cuts and the fair funding formula looking set to be anything but fair. Next year's budget might not be so easy to set unless the Mayor begins to hold his friends in government to account.
Timed that, exactly 2 minutes. Well done. Councillor Branson.
I just wanted to say that I also will be supporting the budget, as all the Labour members will be doing. I think it's good that we've worked together on this, and I think we've got the best that we can get. It's not a perfect budget by a very long way. But one of the things that it has done is safeguarded against some of the cuts in services that we all wanted to avoid. All I would say really is that it isn't going to be easy in the future. We are going to have further cuts down the line. I hope we can all work together in order to get as fair a budget as possible. And for those people who are intending to vote against this budget, I would simply ask one question. You really have to say to us what service you want to cut, because that is the option, the only option that you have if you want to reject this budget. So once again, I welcome this budget. I think we've all worked together, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Polano.
Shall I just project? Fellow councillors, all of my constituents, most of whom are pensioners, have indicated to me that they do not want to see another rise in the council tax. They cannot afford it. Another price rise. Many people believe that pensioners don't pay council tax. This is untrue. So therefore, I will be saying no to this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cope.
I accept what Councillor Stowey said, but I will echo what Councillor Hobson said the other week. In the past, the Conservatives have tried to put a budget through, and despite lack of information we have put alternatives, and it was always turned down. So that was in the past. On my behalf of my people in my ward, I spoke to them last Saturday. They would prefer not an increase, but they understand the reasons for it. It is a difficult decision to make. I certainly don't like the idea of putting that up, but that is a decision. It's either cut services or do that. It's one or the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cope. Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Chair. This is really, really a difficult decision for me to have made tonight. For the people who've known me for the last 12 years, you will know that I've stood up in this council chamber and voted against putting a council tax rise. We went out to consultation, and the consultation came back that the people didn't want any savings for losing their weekly bin collections. They didn't want us to save by putting on the green waste collection amount of money. And they actually came back and said they would rather see a council tax rise. So I have to go with what the people have told me. I can't go against it. I wish I could. I don't believe that it's a good thing to put the council tax up, because there are a lot of people out there that can't afford it. And as I say, for the last 12 years, I've stood up and voted against it. But we have consulted. The people have come back, even people in our own ward, residents have come back and said that they would rather pay the extra 2% rather than lose the services. Now, I know that the Councillor Story keeps saying we should write to the government. Rishi Sunak is now the Chancellor. I know Rishi quite well. In fact, I've had afternoon tea with Rishi in Westminster. Well, I had tea and it was in the afternoon. But even if I write to him, he's not going to say, Chris Hobson said they need more money, get the chequebook out. Because they have to have a budget as well. And they can't just send us money like that. However, I do believe that next year there will be a change, because there are lots of ways we are trying now to make money. Lots of commercial enterprises where we're hoping to make money. I did think that I was going to be able to take some money out of the culture budget. I looked at the culture budget, thought it was really high, looked at that and thought, oh, well, I'll take some of their money out. However, when I looked further into it, in the culture budget, we do have preventing homelessness, welfare rights, supporting communities.
Councillor, can I interrupt you? You're running out of time. Will you wind up, please?
Domestic abuse. This is one time when I have to take notice of him. Intervention and prevention. So I can't take away from that budget, but next year I know for a fact under Councillor Smiles, this budget in culture will be making money, and once it starts making money, then we can look at the council tax again, and hopefully next year we won't be putting it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jeanette Walker.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd just like to take this opportunity to say, I better read what I've written because otherwise I sound all muddled up. I'd like to support the budget, and and nice to know that they've listened to the experience of the Labour group, and also it's nice to see that we're working together for the benefit of Middlesbrough and the people of Middlesbrough, and understanding the difficulties that we all experience in day-to-day life, and also to protect our most vulnerable people in our communities. We're saving jobs. And also, I'd like to say thank you very much to the people of Hemlington for supporting the petition that we had in Hemlington to save our lollipop lady. It was very well supported, and I must admit I've got parents already talking to me and saying thanks. But it wasn't just me; it was the people out there who in the communities. They're the ones who've saved the lollipop lady, and I'd like to thank our Susan, she's brilliant, and I'd like to thank Nikki Walker for actually organising the petition for me and standing out in the rain and the cold, and I think it's all been worth it, but I like more than anything to see this council working together. Thank you very much.
Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm grateful, as are my constituents, that the Mayor has taken on board the recommendations of the Labour Group with regard to a number of contentious proposals in his budget. In particular, many of my constituents were concerned regarding the reduction in the refuse collection service. Many families already struggle with the weekly collection due to the small size of our general waste bins. It is clear that a move to fortnightly collection would have created significant issues of littering and increased fly tipping. Whilst not excusing this, we need to play our part in assisting residents to dispose of their refuse responsibly. The continuation of weekly collections will contribute to this aim. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Rooney.
All right, thank you, Chair. I've got 2 points to make. One is on the budget itself and one is on another issue. First of all, I want to thank the officers who worked with us to put the information together. They were extremely helpful in providing all of the facts and the figures that we needed in order to bring our suggestions and contributions forward. None of us come into local government to cut services. We come in to try and represent, do the best for the people that we are representing. Like the other wards mentioned, Ayrson Ward also had a petition to serve the Lollipop Lady at Croft Avenue, and I'm glad that's been successful. The point over the level of reserves that we've got at 9.4 million, which are depicted in paragraph 59 of the report, that is only over the medium term. We will continue with uncertain funding settlements, and we must keep the reserves at an acceptable level and not use them to just draw down. We've got to keep them for the crises that they are there for. The second point I want to make is in regarding to health equity in England, the Marmot report that came out yesterday. The headlines were around shorter life expectancy for women. But if you look at that report, that was only one of the headlines. It talks about poverty in England. And the report begins with, since 2010, which is when we had a Conservative government, life expectancy in England has stalled with a slowdown not witnessed in over 120 years. This is a central government decision. It also says the national government has not prioritised health inequalities, not failed, because that would suggest they tried. They've not prioritised them. And the reasons why our children face poverty and women will die younger if they live in the north is a government choice. So when we say we want you to go to central government and ask for more money and tell them about the problems that we've got, we are being serious, because these are political choices, and we can do more if we're given adequate resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ostrom.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome the amendments that were made to the budget, and I'm really grateful to the people who contributed to that. But I particularly welcome the decision not to cut funding to Middlesbrough Environment City, because Middlesbrough Environment City makes a considerable contribution to this community. In particular...
Excuse me, Julie, can you lift the microphone?
Sorry. Thought I was talking loud enough. Okay. I've forgotten what I was going to say now. Environment City make a considerable contribution to our community. They particularly help those in need. In the last year, for example, 943 people were given advice on energy efficiency, and as a result of that, their bills were reduced. So it reduced fuel poverty in some of the areas of most need. And Environment City attracted a grant from the government of £650,000 for warmer homes, and 447 households were given new boilers as a result of that, and also other measures were given to them to improve their energy efficiency. And you may know the cycle centres run by Middlesbrough Environment City, and it had 10,000 uses last year. That includes shop mobility. Also, 815 school children were given sessions on safe and active travel. 101 sessions were done on healthy eating in various communities. And I think last but not least, I'm just giving you a few examples just to show what the contribution is that's made. Environment City took on 15 apprentices, and 11 of those have gone on into further employment. So as you can see, the council does get value for money from Environment City. It also made £2 million contribution to the local economy at the same time. So I hope you will agree with me that it is well worth paying that money that we do pay to Environment City. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brian Hubbard.
Chair, I'll be voting against the budget, quite simply because in the consultation process, It was promised that if the council tax went up by 3.99%, there'd be no cuts taking place, and this isn't the case. There's still £300,000 worth of cuts to our drug services, and there'll still be school dinner increases still going out to consultation. I'm glad Councillor Rooney mentioned the life expectancy report, because it was based on poverty, as she correctly says. But what does everyone think that by raising the council tax by 4%, what will that do to the life chances of women in our area? Also, on the 6th of December 2017, this council, led by Labour, moved a motion that supported the fight for period poverty. Again, what's going to 4% are going to affect all these people. It's going to take them even worse in more humiliating circumstances. I'd like to work with the Mayor, as many others will, for next year's budget, if the Mayor agrees with that. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Rathmell.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, with regards to the budget, I agree it has been possibly one of the largest consultations. The disappointing part for myself and for the area I represent is that there are so many who don't have access to social media or the internet. And these paper ones only came out 2 weeks before the consultation ended, which meant a lot of pensioners didn't get to have their say. They were only accessible via community centres and community hubs. And one thing that's very clear, especially in my area, is we've seen those facilities deplete. They're non-existent through budget cuts year on year. So it's no surprising that a lot of elderly people feel aggrieved in my local ward. But when you do look at it, as Councillor Hubbard rightfully said, it does state in the first part of the consultation form that if we placed a 3.99% council tax increase, we would not have to make any of the new saving proposals and increased charges, yet some still exist. I am pleased though, however, that during the consultation process that took place, senior officers fed back some of our concerns and proposals regarding the outsourcing of the cleaning staff, because nobody could ever answer where that saving was going to be made. It's also good that the bin collections have been removed, but equally it's disappointing to know that they're sat there in the background to come into play next year. It's positive to see the Labour group is supporting these cuts not going ahead. After all, for 5 years I've been a councillor, many of them were their proposals, and the proposals they were quite happy to support. One thing I would like to have seen though, and that is very disappointing throughout this whole process, is the lack of implementation with regards to the feedback that was received from by senior officers. For example, the group consultation sessions, it was fed back by multiple people that we should look at reducing costs by doing a management review. Other authorities have done it and it saved a lot of money. Because one thing's for sure with Middlesbrough Council, we are top heavy with management. And
Councillor, could you wind up, please? You're all running time.
One thing that makes this whole budget unconscionable, should we support it, is the fact that only 6 months ago, many of the councillors in here supported giving themselves an increase in their basic allowance, and now you're wanting to support pushing people into further poverty.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have anybody else wishing to speak? Councillor Arundel, Bionic Man.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to support this budget, much to the annoyance of my neighbours and what have you, but in all honesty, I can't see any other way of doing it. What I'm hoping for is efficiencies can be made over the next year and the amount of money that's been spent on children in care. I think that's an area that can be got at financially, and in that, if we can do that next year, we may be able to have not quite a 4% increase. So I hope that can be looked at. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else wishing to speak? Councillor Halami.
Thank you. It's just a detail, thank you,
Yeah,
Chair, I'd like to pick up. It's on the part of the budget about referring to the fortnightly bin collections. Now, I think that since we've got consultation ongoing with members of the public throughout the town, if we are going to reassess how we collect waste with a new way of working, we maybe do need to roll out the public education programme regarding rubbish collection and see how we can educate people to think differently about recycling. And I'd like to see how in practice we're going to describe how the public education programme will work, how we will maybe have pilot schemes across different areas of town, who will be responsible for this, how it will work, how it can be analysed. And I think through this mechanism, we can continue to involve the public in the consultation process and make progress looking forward to see how we can make cuts which will be effective and not detrimental to the public well-being.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor?
Again, I will be supporting the budget proposals put forward, and I implore other councillors to do so as well. And just to put this in perspective, on paragraph 91 of the budget proposal, it talks about the national context and the fact that Middlesbrough has faced 36% decrease in their overall spending power since 2010. And the average is 29 across all authorities in the country. So we are getting hit the hardest. We are being forced to make these tough decisions. So it is a political choice. And we've been forced to make political choices ourselves. But as a Labour Council, we have endeavoured to save as much services as possible and do our best to stave off these cuts coming forward. If these cuts keep coming, we'll struggle to do so. And also I'd like to mention it's more about the Mayor's investment strategy, and we're talking about increasing the income for the council. And I'd like to make note that he said that he'll spend another 30 million acquisition town centre properties. And I would just like a business report, like how do you see that making money? Is it going to be short term? Is it long term? I would just like that, obviously ask the Mayor, where do you see that? Is that money going to be recouped pretty soon, or is that a long term aspect? Thank you, Chair.
This is about the budget.
Yes. Yeah, he'll do that separately, because we're here tonight to discuss the budget. Right, is anybody... The Mayor said he'll deal... We're here tonight to sort the budget out. Okay. Right, is anybody else wishing to speak? No hands have gone up, so we'll count it as that's it. Right, I'll pass it over now to the monitoring officer to conduct a recorded vote. What we're going to do, they're going to read your names out alphabetically, and we'll ask you to say for, or against, or abstain. Those totals will be added up at the end, and that will be the result. Does anybody understand? Anybody? You got it, John? Yeah, good. Right. So over to the monitor officer.
Okay, starting with the Mayor, Andy Preston.
4. Probably. Definitely 4. Definitely.
Thank you. Councillor Arundale. Councillor Bell. Councillor Branson. Councillor Cook. Councillor Cooper. Councillor Coop. Councillor Davison. Councillor Dean. Councillor Dodds. Councillor Furness. Councillor Garvey. Councillor Halawi. Councillor High. Councillor Hill. Councillor C. Hobson. Councillor J. Hobson. Councillor Hubbard. Councillor Hussain. Councillor Lewis. Councillor Mason, Councillor Mawston, Councillor McCabe, Councillor McTeague, Councillor Nugent, Councillor Polano, Councillor Purvis, Councillor Rathmell, Councillor Rooney, Councillor Rostron, Councillor Saunders, Councillor Smiles, Councillor M. Story, Councillor P. Story, Councillor J. Thompson, Councillor Udding, Councillor J. Walker, Councillor S. Walker, Councillor Waters, Councillor Wilson, Councillor Wright. Okay, is that everybody? Yeah, if you just give us a moment then while we do the calculations. Okay, the vote is as follows. For 35, against 6, abstaining none, and there are 6 apologies. So the budget is carried.
Thank you. Right, because that's happened, the Mayor's budget has been carried. The council meeting which we had scheduled for the 6th of March will now be cancelled. We don't need it. 6th of March, cancelled. Yeah, no, one left to go yet. Right, agenda item 4, council tax premium rates. I call Councillor Chris Hobson to present this report.
Thank you, Chair. I'll make this as quick as possible because I know everybody's dying to get off to go to the football match. I was going to read all this, but I'm going to make it quicker now. I'm asking that this report is to seek approval to increase the empty property premium with effect from the 1st of April 2020. The premium will be charged against properties that are empty and unfurnished. The report is also seeking approval to extend the powers under Section 13A to allow for circumstances where the premium may be set aside based on the criteria outlined in the report. And this is to bring empty properties back into use, and it's to, if they don't come back into use, it is to charge a large premium for the landlords who are doing nothing. It should help a lot. Obviously, it does make a big difference when there are empty properties stood around. It makes a difference in areas, and if we can get these people to come along and actually do something with the properties, bring them back into a reasonable state of where people can move in, it will be good. Other than that, we will be charging them either 100% or 200% more council tax. At the moment, we have approximately 44 properties that would be charged 200% premium. Thank you, Chair. If I'll ask everybody if they can agree this, please.
Can we all agree this, please? No, just agree or disagree. Right, that's the conclusion of the meeting, everyone. Apologies once again to Councillor Halami. Have a safe journey home, and we'll see you at the next meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance.